And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome yet again to another day of the best of fives right here for Proving Grounds. I will be hosting.
Sam, was that you again? Was that you with the button?
You know what?
Right,
I pressed the R key. It's my immediate mad magical key. I have it on my keyboard. You know I need it. And here we are.
I mean, like, it is understandable. Like, you're just so good at this, you know, homie. Like, you're just like so fantastic. I understand, but hey, like you all said, like, I will be your host for the evening Rapture, whoever's the most ravishing bed on the internet. I'm joined here by my side by two very familiar faces. With these things are a little bit mixed around, but my main man, Deathstroke's beside me, looking ever so handsome and glowing. Deathstroke, how are you? Doing okay?
I'm doing great, and I am excited because we're starting to decide the top four Proving Grounds, man. I want to see these games coming up.
Yes, we do. And another person I do want to see, and I'm very happy to have you beside me. It's like we went ahead and trade spots just a little bit, though. But my main man, Cage, in the rain. What's up with you, baby?
Oh, I'm feeling great today, and now that I don't have to host, it feels like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders, and I am free to talk about whatever nonsense comes into my head, so I'm looking forward to it.
Well, welcome to the chair that I was in yesterday. You thought I actually cared about Urgot? You all were wrong. It's Malphite bad, Urgot bad, Camille good. That's the world we live in today. But I mean, all my disgruntlement aside, what does matter is, like you're mentioning, the matches that we have going on in front of us. So let's take a quick look at that bracket to be able to understand for all of you as well what we have going on in front of us, right? Look, right across the board, look at this here, man. It's like upper bracket stuff like TLA just keeps going forward and forward. They're just so gosh darn good. They've been on an absolute tear, only kind of dropping one game though. But this right here is where it got close. Wildcard Red dropped down up against 100 Thieves. Things we're thinking, whoa, what's happening here? Wildcard, the hope of amateur, they're continuing forward, but they lost 100 Thieves. We're looking quite good. And then you progress even lower towards our lower bracket, which will tell us the matches that we have here today in front of us, Deathrooks.
Yeah, and the matches we have are going to be exciting, especially because you were just talking about Wildcard, the Hope of Amateur, the last amateur team inside of Proving Grounds. I was talking to Magical. He was saying at this point, last time in spring, we had 2 amateur teams left. Wildcard, Hope of Amateur. I think there's no better way to state it.
And honestly, I'm excited, looking forward to Golden Guardians as well, because they are the last golden team left in the bracket. So we'll see if they're able to compete with Wildcard Red. And quite honestly, they're coming in hot. They've been in this lower bracket for a long time in this tournament. But honestly, I think they've looked good ever since that first series that they dropped to EGA.
I find that, like, in terms of the progression that both Golden Guardians, I very much do compare it to what we've seen out of Immortals, right? They've had the same sort of progression after dropping out round 1 and then continuing to make this tear through the lower bracket. So what would be interesting to see is that, you know, like, hey, if actually GGA end up being up against Wildcard, then they'll be facing Immortals Academy going towards the next round, which next round being the battle for top 4 between these two teams going into the semifinals. Remember, friends, after this, it's just smooth sailing from here. We've got a couple more days of PG left. So right now, these teams are continuing to fight for their chance to claim their name to fame in Proving Grounds. So let's talk about what we were mentioning before. The final hope of semi-pro, Wildcard Red. Deathrooks. They're the only ones left, and they have to show up today.
Yeah, and they've been showing up throughout the entirety of the summer. It kind of throws me back to spring that we had with New Org, where New Org's strategy was just basically show up, kick ass, get first place, and leave. First place finishes across the board for Wildcard, given their journey to get here to Proving Grounds first in Challengers Uprising, Risen's Champions League, EGL Showdown. Easy, smooth sailing for them. They've only lost 2 series in their recorded summer history thus far. One of those being the Maryville and RCL, a tournament they still won. And of course, in this tournament here today, to 100 Thieves. They are a red hot team. It's in the name right there, Wildcard Red. They've been doing so well thus far, and it'd be interesting to see if they can really take it to GGA here today.
But you look at the other side of the bracket, and you got Golden Gardens Academy. They haven't had the best summer split, but they're coming into this pretty low tier. But they fight and they fight and they fight, as we said, through that lower bracket, and they are looking phenomenal. They've been taking 2-0 series, they've been taking 2-1 series, and coming in today, I feel like we're seeing a completely different team, specifically from the jungle. I feel like every time I thought about Rosethorn this year, he's been a little bit struggling trying to find out what his niche is on the team. But now that he's found it, now that we've clicked on 9-17 or 11-17, we're now in full force for Golden Gardens Academy, and I think they're going to be putting out some amazing games today.
And it's kind of wild looking at Golden Guardians Academy when you look at the grand scheme of things, because I hate to put it this way, but it's pretty true now. They have a loser's bracket buff. I remember it starting all the way with Giant Slayers back in spring. This is pretty much the same roster. The only thing that's been swapped out is Newbie, who joined in the summer. But they lost right away first round, make the run back through the entire bracket. They've been doing that in multiple tournaments. You know, Giant Slayers is where they got first place for it, but they always get these far runs, and they're looking to do it again. The elimination in the first round, now bringing it back. They're a team that likes to adapt and play the game very slowly and try and capitalize on those slow mistakes, as they do work out a lot of what happens on the Rift.
And if we look on the opposite end here, like Bestros, you mentioned how GGA, they in fact have, I believe, on average, the longest game time so far in Proving Ground. So yeah, definitely, like you mentioned, slow and steady on a controlled pace throughout the entire time. But on the side of Wildcard Red, they have one of the fastest game times throughout all of PG, and even throughout their normal games, you know, through the overall semi-pro split that they've had for themselves. Like, considering they like to capitalize on early leads, and they absolutely just run with it too. But Cage, I want to go to you for this one, for this starting off first. Let's say, how do you think these two styles will actually clash? Considering, you know, slow and controlled versus fast-paced and explosive.
I mean, what we've seen from a lot of other teams is when you have the explosive playstyle, what happens is you run into a team that plays slow and steady, like Golden Gardens Academy, and generally, you find that it's impossible to engage on them. You see a more disengaged drafting coming out. The Braum supports, you have all sorts of ability to get away, Rise as well being very popular among Golden Guardians. So we'll see if that sort of playstyle is in fact the counter to the Wildcard Red style, which is to just be aggressive. And I believe Joshi was saying this before we started the show today, that they love to go for the pre-7 kills, but it's only post-level 7 that Wildcard Red really starts to explode in their playstyle. And I think Golden Gardens Academy could have the answer to that if they're playing on top of their game.
I think they very much could have the answer to that, especially when we get towards the later stages of the game. You know, you see a lot of those late stage, a lot of those late game champions that get drafted by Golden Guardians Academy. Niles, for example, is an aficionado when it comes to the gangplank. And even though that did get adjusted a little bit, it's not as dominant in lane, it scales very heavily into the late game, and it's a good champion at stalling out games to get towards that late stage where Golden Guardians excel at.
And that's the biggest thing too, is like, is Wildcard going to be able to take it, you know, all the way there? Or the question is going to be, is like, do GGA force them into their own play style? It all remains to be seen when we cut it to a very, very short break. And on the other side, we should have our casters there for you, being Mad Magical and Joshi. So y'all stick around in just 40 seconds. We'll see you there.
Well, what time is it? It is time for Champion Select in our best of 3. Don't mind if I get comfortable really quick. Getting ready for our first game in this best of 5 series between Wildcard Red and Golden Guardians Academy. I'm Mad Magical, joined in by the one and only Joshi. And Josh, we are already right into the thick of it. We got Ziggs, we got Gangplank, and Lee Sin banned on the other side.
Look, before we do any real analysis, I'm surprised that you only took off the one jacket. There's another layer there, Al.
Let's see, you gotta look dashing as usual, you know. I
Oh,
have to
there
keep
you
up
go,
with
there you go.
After all.
Well,
But that's the real reason why this one's going to stay on for now. We'll see how the night progresses. You never know how things might end up. But right now, we're seeing a good amount of that top lane focus. The Gangplank probably going to be banned permanently from Niles. We have seen how dominating he can be on that champion. I mean, Cloud9 Academy, unfortunately, did get the brunt end of that one and realized, yeah, you probably want to take that away. And same with Yunbi's Rise.
When we're also seeing a lot of this general focus towards the top lane, because it does seem like one of the places where we have a little bit of a larger gap, right? Not going to be doing anything to diminish Brandini, because he has had a fantastic season, but Niles has looked really good ever since he was an amateur, when he had an opportunity to play at the collegiate level, and even during his brief stint in LCS, it felt like he was not necessarily completely out of his element, but just because they didn't play around him. And right now, with the Twisted Fate coming through as the very first pick, Bradley's going to have a lot of impact on the rest of the map.
Big takeaway, though, from Yunbi. That is a champion that he has been playing to great success. The Rise as well. Those are some of his best champions. But also, that Aurelia, the flexibility that champion has for both Niles and Yunbi. Both of them completely capable of being able to play that champion. And I'm curious to see if they actually lock that one in. They do, and where it's going to go.
Well, this is the thing about Golden Gardens, is they can send it to multiple lanes, right? We've seen Niles play this historically, we've seen Yunbi play this as well, but the big thing that we got to start paying attention to is how the jungle pool is going to start getting pinched. The only ban we've seen so far is the Lee Sin, highly contested between Winston and Rosethorn. Next, we typically look at something like the Xin Zhao, but as long as picks like the Trundle or the Kindred are often available, it can be very difficult for either of these picks to actually come through. You want to make sure that you can get Rosethorn versus Winston a strong pick, because they play so similarly so much of the time. And instead, we're going to be focusing towards the bottom lane, as both Rakan and a Thresh are picked up.
And there's that Aphelios to go right with Thresh. I was about to comment on that, say, you know what has made it through that we've been seeing banned a lot is that Thresh. Even the Aphelios towards Arrow. A lot of people have been taken away and trying to really pinch at his champion pool. So the fact that they're going to have something, even if it's not necessarily going to try to dominate the lane, it is safe. It's something that can scale up into the mid game and be explosive once it joins everyone else.
The big thing, we also got to look at the Twisted Fate, right? Like, Twisted Fate is going to be moving down. This is normally a pretty strong lane, and it is going to be matched by the Syndra. So this also tells us that Irelia is going to be going top lane for Niles.
It's not necessarily true, though, with the Syndra.
Supposed
Prismal
to be
has
true,
played
yeah.
it in the bot lane before. There is always the potential that it gets flexed there. Doubtful, though. Not really like the Ziggs that has really been primarily in that bot lane. Syndra, very unlikely that she ends up there, but we have to keep that as an option, because you just never know with Golden Guardians Academy what they like to pull out. I mean, we've seen the Trundle support from them before, too, where they held onto that. They grabbed it immediately and then flexed the Kindred into the jungle, but they ban it away themselves, because we see neither team have gotten their jungle.
And it makes sense. I think something might happen here that a lot of us will look at and be kind of like, this kind of feels odd, right? Because now that you've mentioned that Syndra can go into the bottom lane, you tend to see a lot of bans towards either the mid lane or the bottom lane, and you're trying to force this champion to go into one role or the other, right? By banning away these AD carries, you're starting to pinch Prismal champion pool, and suddenly the Syndra starts looking a lot more enticing, or otherwise it can be forced to pick, one of his tier 2, maybe even tier 3 AD carries that we tend to see him go for. And right now with the Xayah taken away, the Syndra looks a little bit more enticing for Prismal coming up.
But the thing that's really standing out to me is Varus, something that we have seen dominate the meta with the Ziggs, hasn't been touched by either team. Xayah and Sejuani are the two bans coming in from Wildcard Red. The Sejuani, I get taking that away from Aurelia, but I want to see if we're going to have that focus on to something into the bot lane, or if they just want to hold on to that, really keep Wildcard guessing the entire time and not really give up that yet, and that is exactly what they're going to do.
And this is what we said, right? It's very hard to pick the Xin Zhao as long as the Trundle is available. They ban it away, feel a lot more comfortable picking it for themselves. At this point, Winston, his champion pool has been pinched a fair amount. Now, typically, I look at him as playing a lot of the same kind of champions. The Nunu, not necessarily one I'm
The
particularly
J4,
expecting,
though.
but the Jarvan, very common. The Diana is something that he is still pulling on. They both perform reasonably well, but they also perform very different jobs. The Jarvan is going to be coming through. They have guaranteed engage, but it also feels like they might be a little bit low on damage compared to what Golden Guardians are bringing to the table.
Though I want to see what they get for the top lane, for Brandini. Do we get the Gwen picked up here to provide a little bit more damage for the team, especially an AP damage source, or do they want a front line? Do they want a Set? Do they want an Ornn to round out the team and really put everything into the arrow basket, make it so that he is going to be the firm carry? The Set, I think, yeah, the Set did get locked in at the very end.
I do like this pick coming through. I know that there was rumblings about whether or not Ornn was going to be contested between these two teams before everything started, but the Set does have a better individual matchup into Niles on this Irelia. And the big thing is, when you have so much burst coming through between the Irelia, Xin Zhao, and the Syndra, having the ability to just stop so much of it with your ultimate becomes very, very valuable. Now, this Ornn would be quite surprising to me if it does come through, but it is going to be the answer. Okay, so it is going to be the Syndra moving down to the bottom lane. It is going to be Yumbi's Irelia, but the big thing here is now you're providing a very obvious target for Brandini to be using his ultimate on. Suddenly, he's able to just yeet this big old Forge God into the rest of the enemy team, and with the lack of mobility on Prismal's Syndra, it becomes very dangerous for him to even be close to Ornn during some of these team fights.
Hey, so once in a while, this old brain up here can be pretty big when it comes to predicting these things. I know Prismal has played Syndra, but it's been a while since I've seen this in the bot lane. And with Rakan paired up, I mean, the reason why Syndra used to get played all the time was the wave clear, and that so many champions struggled to be able to push back against her.
I also have to note that one of my good friends, Alk Battery, plays AD carry with me quite a bit. Big fan of both these champions. He says that if the enemy ever picks a Aphelios, Syndra is going to be his go-to mage and his go-to pick quite a bit because the lane matchup can be so good. As long as Aphelios doesn't have the green gun, Syndra can really bully him.
Well, let's toss it to a break so we can get into this exciting first game of the best of 5. We'll be right back. Look at the time. We are loaded up onto the Rift for Game 1. Best of 5. It is round 4. One team will move on into the top 4, taking on Immortals Academy tomorrow. The other will fall just short, their dreams crushed. But who will it be? This Game 1 between Wildcard Red and Golden Gardens Academy. Everyone going for the line of scrimmage except a little bit of a group from Wildcard.
Ooh, I like this kind of play coming through from Wildcard. If you can get the idea that your opponent is going to be in that tri-brush, Daption can sometimes hide over the wall, but instead, they're just walking forward. Niles isn't walking the bush. He'll just see set now.
That. Brandini, that wraparound caught Niles off guard. Going to be bring him back. The flash is available, but he can't even use it. He's dragged right back in with Ignite burning first blood for Bradley.
That was super low effort coming in from Wildcard 2. They don't have to use anything in particular, right? The big thing is just that Niles standing so far forward gets to know that Brandini is there late, and with the amount of crowd control that's on the other side for Wildcard, they're able to find an easy kill. We were already looking at this top lane being good for Niles, but now that he's already down a kill, now he's going to be a little bit late to lane as compared to Brandini, and might really start to give Brandini a bit of options in terms of actually playing out this early game.
And I love this from Brandini, utilizing that little bit of lack of vision, the fog of war, to get that wraparound onto Niles.
And of course, we also have to praise them for the way that they actually chain all of their crowd control. You got to go for the things that are most guaranteed. Brandini lands it, and then you notice the gold card follows up because it's impossible to miss, and then you go for the death sentence. So all these small things look very practiced coming up from Wildcard. They're very ready to go in for these fights, and you're already noticing how aggressive Brandini is willing to be at level 1. Now, we got to pay attention to where the junglers are, both of them starting on the bottom side of the map. Jarvan going from red, but gets spotted at the Raptors, whereas Rosethorn, they have a good idea that he's probably bottom side, but they actually don't know what his exact route is, and it looks like they are getting an accurate prediction based on Winston's pings.
Love that from the side of Winston, understanding where Rosethorn in all likelihood is. Bot lane, going to be able to get a little bit of a fight back and forth. There's going to be a cleanse from Prismal to be able to escape from that one. But unfortunately, that just one summoner blown on the side of GGA. More wins coming out, even if it's small, for Wildcard.
I like the heads-up play that's already coming through from Wildcard. We just praised them for their CC chain up on the top side. We also see Daption. He's not going to be trying to lock down Newbie. He throws the hook toward Prismal because that's also where Newbie might use the Battle Dance if he does have it this early on in the game. But at the same time, just getting that cleanse out early on does make it a lot more vulnerable if Winston wants to come down. But instead, Winston wants to tussle with Rosethorn.
It's a good 1v1 fight. Jarvan can duel against Xin Zhao pretty easily, but the red buff is helping out the flash away. The smite to get a little bit of health back for Winston, keeps them alive. Yunbi, though, with flashless, Brandini on the hunt, has to go all the way back, or a long wrap around. Even though Niles was on the flank, they always had to be careful that Bradley was going to be able to join up.
Brandini is running into Niles right now, and look at this. Rosethorn walking over. This is a 1v2 for Brandini.
Nice knockup coming in from Niles, but Brandini should be fine. Haymaker punch, gonna get a little bit of damage. Flash in from Rosethorn, the flash away from Brandini. The flash in too from Niles to try to get that interrupt. Doesn't have the knockup, but it's gonna be the knockup from Rosethorn instead. Brandini dies. Rosethorn takes him out.
This is one of the criticisms we had toward Wildcard for quite a while. They go for a lot of these flips early on in the game, and look at this. Winston, while he is first to the top side crab, is looking for another fight. Here comes the teleport from Brandini. They're not done.
No, they are not. Brandini wants to hunt Niles, knowing there's no flash on that side. No dash either. No mana to speak of. Nice interrupt came in from the Bellows Breath. The shield didn't really help out Winston. Here's the TP to answer. 2 TPs, in fact. Winston will die before they even complete. Yunbi's a little bit too late, trying to help out. They got 1-for-1 at the moment. Brandini's still alive, but he's taking a lot of damage from Yunbi. Trying to escape back to Daption. The Lantern! He's alive! Brandini, how's he surviving?
Oh my god, this is what happens with Wildcard, Alex. They constantly go for all these fights, and because they're so good at rotating Daption up, because they're so proactive in these kind of things, they're able to get away with fights that a lot of other teams would never even think to go for. Look at the fact that there's no farm happening the top side of the map. Brandini's at 14, Niles is at 16 as we get towards the 4.5 minute mark, and both junglers haven't really had an opportunity to cycle through their camps. They're just now going to it. I guarantee you that Winston's blue buff and his wolves are still at level 1, and they're still just going for this fight. They don't need to have a whole lot of gold on their top side, because on the other side of the map, Arrow is continuing to have time to farm up, and they are just allowing him to be disproportionately strong later in the game.
And I gotta say, with this, looking at the replay, this was just nicely done on the side of GGA.
Yeah, it really was. They were able to come through. They were very calm in their response. They know Wildcard likes to do all these things.
Tragic.
The only thing that really keeps Brandini alive is the fact that Daption is here first, because they roamed him all the way from the bottom lane right as the fighting around the red buff started.
Bradley and Yunbi fighting again here in mid lane. Yunbi is on at that rotation. Gold card to get the stun, but with Rosethorn spotted out by the control ward, Winston and Bradley don't want to start off the tussle just yet. They have to be a little bit more careful than that. The flag and drag away will keep him alive. Gold card on top to flash in to be able to get a nice drag back in on a Yunbi with the flay too, but he's got the grand entrance to escape from that. A lot of trades back and forth for both teams, but nobody dying this time around.
And most teams would never even think about this kind of thing, right? This aggression that we're seeing from Wildcard is what allows them to get so many of their wins. I think the stat was they have like the shortest games of everybody who is currently still in the tournament, and it's because there's so much fighting early on. One team is almost guaranteed to come out to a big lead. Right now, though, still very even, less than 100 gold between them. Niles is forced to teleport top lane. We also have to know Winston is here, and if we know Winston, he wants to continue going for fights, and with both junglers here, we're in for even more explosions.
But you see, you bring up that wild card, they end games quickly. On the other side, GGA, this is a team that has been able to drag out said games. If they lose early, they're always able to hold the line long enough so they can scale up, especially when you have something like an Ornn, an Aurelia, Xin Zhao, that are going to be that much more powerful once they get those ornaments on their side. The wildcard need to make sure they're winning before they can start distributing out that free gold.
This is surprising to me, right? Winston has already started to catch up rather effectively up against Rosethorn. With the amount of fights that both these junglers have gone for and the number of camps that Winston skipped early on, I'm impressed that he's still able to pick up this Scuttle Crab and even go for an opportunity to get a back hit. He's ahead of Rosethorn after all is said and done. It just kind of shows like one of the small things that Wildcard does well. Even though Winston is involved in so many of these fights, in fact, he's one of 2 members on the team that have over a 70% kill participation as compared to that 55% from Brandini, Bradley, and Arrow, shows how he's able to continue farming despite the amount of pressure he's putting on the map.
And that's the thing that a lot of people, including myself, praise when it comes to Winston, being able to bounce back from a lot of these. And he is someone who tends to play a much more controlled jungle style. wanting to help out the lanes. Let them be the ones to exert their control, and then once they have gotten themselves that CS lead, the gold leads necessary from the laning itself, that's when he shows up with Daption in tow. Those two have the highest kill participation on the entire team, both tied at 71%.
Here, as we start moving people around, Daption and Arrow did show towards the mid lane after getting a bunch of priority, but neither team is really looking at the dragon just quite yet, right? We're noticing they walked right on by as both mid laners stun each other. Winston's already here, but so is Rosethorn.
Rosethorn's on the other side. It's going to be the Vanguard's edge. Bradley has to flash away because he saw Rosethorn and Newbie nearby. Did not want to have layered CC follow up.
Ornn also moving towards the mid lane. It just feels like there's non-stop action at this point, Alex. Every single time we see anybody on champion is when there's at least 3 others at the same time. And here, Newbie also going to be chilling out. Daption and Arrow already coming up as well. We're past the 8-minute mark already. It doesn't even feel like we've been on the Rift for that long. But now as this becomes the target for both teams, gotta pay attention. There's a slight push in the top lane for Brandini, but Ornn's going to be able to equalize that very quickly. He definitely has a large impact on his team fights if he chooses to come down.
Principal does not have TP, will be spotted out by that control ward. This is where Wildcard have the advantage. They know they can stick to the objective. Rosethorn wants to be able to get into the pit, but he just couldn't do it soon enough. They got the play out of Dash, and they even got a call of the Horde God on the other side coming in from Niles, looking for the knockups onto the new members of the side, Golden Guardians, but they're still alive. Finally, Rosethorn's going to be the first casualty. Nice scout of the week came in from Bristle just in time to be able to save the lives of his teammates, but it's going to be a good cleanse in from him. Captain jacking that bad boy so they can pick up the kill on Dash, but they lost his own life through it all. It's going to be a 2-for-1 favoring Wildcard. They even get the objective on top of it.
And now they're going to be moving towards the bottom side of the map, right? They can even look to pick up this dragon if they want. We still have the white-red guns coming in for Arrow, which means he does so much damage to all of these objectives and anybody who happens to walk too close. So this is a big win coming up for Wildcard. Even though it's not reflecting in the gold just quite yet, they get back-to-back neutral objectives. And as we take a look at this fight, I want to point out where Niles is during this. He doesn't feel comfortable going for a solo mission on the other side. Instead, he is so far away from this fight, they don't have their true front line here. Prismal hasn't joined just quite yet, and so it's effectively a 3.5 versus 5 right off the bat. And we're seeing the amount of damage that Arrow's able to put through because nobody is really able to turn on to him. If there was a slightly worse cleanse, we probably would have seen Prismal go down without even turning around a kill onto Daption. But as it is, Wildcard coming out with a small gold lead, but 2 objectives.
Man, that was beautiful, wasn't it, Josh? That was a beautiful cleanse out of Prismal that made it so they didn't lose inherently. They didn't lose everything. You can see that from the goal. The problem was, as you had mentioned, they lost both of the neutral objectives from that play.
Now they're going to be starting to lose some pressure on the map. The fact that Bradley did use his Destiny Gate during that last fight makes it a little bit of an opportunity here for Golden Guardians to continue farming, but we know Bradley already got the Lost Chapter, already has the ability to haze boots, so he's going to be very proactive on the map here, and his ultimate on a relatively low cooldown, so that's why you're seeing a lot of pressure now in particular towards the mid lane, but Winston, no EQ.
No EQ, doesn't even have Cataclysm nor Flash to really make this worthwhile. Bradley was hovering around looking for a play, but as you mentioned, that was the time, the window for GGA to play aggressively. Soon, once that Destiny Gate is back and open for Bradley, GGA are going to have to try to see if they can at least force that out before they can look for another proactive play.
Instead, we're just waiting. Waiting for something to happen, right? It always feels like these teams are going to continue going for a fight, so I don't expect we're going to have to wait long, and in fact, with so many members of Wildcard cheating towards the bottom half of the map, they are going to be showing Winston. He has the Rift Herald, with so many people here, it's a potential dive opportunity, but there's teleports from
Look at
Yumbi.
this. But look at Niles. Niles does not have the TP available. Brandini does. As long as Niles can make sure that Brandini can't reliably TP, it will be worthwhile. It'd be a 4v4 play, never the 5v4 that Wildcard were trying to see if they could set up.
Rosethorn backing away, as is the rest of Wildcard, going back to farming for a little while longer, and Winston has continued to balloon. You know, it's not, I don't want to use the word balloon just quite yet, right? It's not quite that large, but he is starting to grow the CS advantage.
Word balloon.
But I did.
You didn't want, yeah, you didn't want to, but you did.
Well, there's a lot of things that we do that we don't want to, right? I don't
that's
like
fair.
broccoli, but I'll eat it.
Oh, wait, I love broccoli. You're weird.
Well,
Broccoli's good.
Not the way that I've had it. So maybe there's a secret that you're gonna have to teach us.
I'll teach you later. That's for after broadcast. Here we have it. A lot of good vision has been placed down by Wildcard, giving them this proactivity early game that we always like to see out of them, that they constantly have been providing throughout the amateur scene. But now it's going to be the first call on to Brandini. Nice haymaker shield, and look at Winston right on the other side. They have a nice showstopper, but they lost him first. Should be a 1-for-1 with Cataclysm there. Dash in here too, so they can get two kills for the side of Wildcard Newbie. Unfortunately, having to go back to the base, knowing that there's no fight left.
And this is an opportunity for them to get so much damage onto the structure. Watch the fact that Winston is already here. He throws down the Rip Child. He has the E to give a bunch of attack speed as well. And also the fact that Arrow is moving up towards the mid lane at the same time. Prismal, yeah, he's going to have some chance to get a little bit of damage onto the bot lane turret, but it looks to be like that first plate that is only now going down is getting matched by Brandini's teleport. Wildcard are everywhere on the map.
They are answering everything that GGA could possibly want to do in reaction to them. And even look at this. Shelly gonna get a second charge here in the top lane. Nobody's there to answer. That is a lot of damage onto that tier 2.
And the window is great coming in as well from Wildcard. Not only are they going to be getting 2 crashes after that, but they get the opportunity to shut down Rosethorn's gank. Rosethorn thought he was making an opportunity for himself. He comes top lane, but he doesn't realize that 4 members of Wildcard are already almost here. Yes, they get Brandini, but they lose 2 in return, and the timing is also great. Everybody on Wildcard going to be backing with about a minute and a half left before the next dragon comes up. That means that after getting this turret, they all get to spend all their money, and they get to come back onto the map with a whole bunch of mythics, whereas Golden Guardians haven't picked theirs up quite yet, and it's going to be difficult for them to get in a good back before this dragon is taken.
And keep in mind, how many ults were used by Wildcard in that top lane? Showstopper, Cataclysm, and Destiny Gate were all used, and all are nearly off of cooldown already, with GGA having no real way to answer that, to try to see if they can punish the use of those cooldowns, because they're just waiting. They're trying to be reactive. They're trying to force out a play, but they can't find anything at the moment. Maybe this could be their time to get something, but honestly, it's just so difficult for them at the moment. There's that Cataclysm, and behind 2 TPs coming in. A lot of damage onto Winston, but he drags back with the Lantern to stay alive. Nice play onto Rosethorn. You try to get Niles underneath the turret, but Ignite is ticking onto Rosethorn. Needing a little bit more damage. Bradley had to go golden to be able to survive it. Look who's here. It's Brandini, baby. He's able to get a nice showstopper, drag back in with the Haymaker punch on top of it all. They're underneath the turret. They might have been able to get Winston, but they've lost 2 members in another fight.
Okay, they're not quite done. Where's Jeff going? Oh, he's going for the red buff. It's okay. Oh, there's a person there. It's Rosethorn.
Rosethorn, he was trying to heal up with the help of the red buff, but Bradley read him like a book. Gets the kill, gets the red buff. The team continues to march down mid.
Okay, well this is, again, it's going to be Wildcard coming up big, because not only do they get the teamfight win off of that, but they're also going to be going over towards the Cloud Dragon if they want to pick it up before Rosethorn can really come through, but instead, going to be backing away. They already grabbed the mid lane turret. They already have a whole lot of pressure that they can leverage for the next dragon, but this is, again, a big spot where it just feels like Wildcard are better at pushing their buttons. This feels like a fight that Golden Guardians probably ought to have won, but they weren't super committed to the idea of actually going for the fight. Niles wasn't the one who necessarily was here for the very beginning, and because they're slightly off kilter, because they're not necessarily moving in exactly the same way, they are able to pick up something with Niles, but they aren't able to find a fight. They aren't able to burst out any of the squishy members, and at the very end, Bradley does find Rosethorn and just adds a bit of insult to injury.
Red buff helping Wildcard Red as well, keeping with the thematics there. Nicely done on the side of Wildcard, and Bradley, who's now sitting 4-0-4, has that rapid fire cannon completed as well. So if we thought the pick potential was already pretty big out of Bradley, it's going to be far worse for the side of GGA, who have been trying to force those plays, but it just feels like, I think you mentioned it, just a little too late out of each one of those plays.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like Golden Guardians are used to this kind of super high-octane style of League of Legends, and it is what Wildcard does, right? This is how Wildcard like to play the game. They're super aggressive. They're getting some poke down, and notice Brandini is already in the mid lane. They want to fight for this dragon. They want Golden Guardians to come in and fight them, but Golden Guardians, they don't need to do that. Again, there's no rule that states you need to be there for the dragon. You don't need to watch anybody else doing it, and it looks like Golden Guardians are going to be trying to back away, but at least they're going to get the Gronk at the very least.
They get a Grump, and hopefully they're going to be able to get that Tier 1 tower topside. They have TP from Yunbi if he needs to be able to join in with the rest of the team. But Niles has been forced in a bad spot. A nice flag and drag away from Winston with 4 members here. Wildcard going to be able to connect. Same with the Everfrost. Oh. No call the forward guard because it was interrupted by the root of that Everfrost. But this entire time, Wildcard are just playing with their food. Nice scatter of the week on the other side, though. Here's going to be the Destiny Gate opened up wide to be able to join in with the rest of the team. 4v5. The TP is coming in. Can he be able to get into the middle of them? Yunbi, that's right. No, wait, you don't want to be that in the middle of them. That's not going to be the play you really want to be able to have happen on your side. You've lost Rosethorn. You've got a nice knockup coming in. A nice scatter of the week as well from Principal to be able to take out one. But again, 2-4-1 favoring Wildcard. They keep coming up. They keep getting the prizes that they are the ones setting out to get.
And this is what happens when Wildcard has an opportunity to set up these fights. They just understand the intricacies of what you can do in an individual sense every single time. Again, fights super chaotic, super all over the place, but Wildcard is how they thrive in these situations. Now that they've taken this fight, notice how much movement they have around the map. They're going to be able to fight Niles, and it just keeps happening, Alex.
It does, and that is another death to add up. We are at a kill a minute. It might not be quite as brutal as what we had seen previously with Wildcard against 100 Thieves Academy, but both teams have been fighting consistently. Unfortunately for GGA, you can see that it has not been working out for them. The 2-for-1 trades nearly dead even with how it's been this entire time, where they trade 2 for merely 1.
And that's not it. If it was only the 1-for-2 kills, Golden Guardians would be able to do that because, you know, they're slowly going to be able to pick up a bunch of shutdowns. But the problem is they're losing waves, they're losing structures at the same time. They lost 2 waves in the bottom lane after that. They lost at least 1 wave in the mid lane. And Wildcard just come through and they're very happy. Notice the fact that Ornn doesn't even get the ultimate off because of all the crowd control they're able to layer on. But this fight, again, super chaotic. What is it that is going to be Wildcard's go button? We're not really sure, but Golden Guardians are the one that call it. And it doesn't look like they have a commitment to this fight in the same way that Wildcard do. Wildcard is like, yeah, we're just going to keep fighting you because we think we're always going to win it.
And there, Yunbi TPing onto that controller, but in the middle of everyone on Wildcard. I almost wonder if he had TP to the turret, what difference it would have made for GGA, if at all.
And I think it probably would have helped quite a bit. They might not have been forced into the situation where they didn't have the Ornn ultimate, they didn't have a whole lot else afterwards. And now as we're seeing this trade of turrets go down, Golden Guardian's map is continuing to get smaller, whereas Wildcard continuing to build up more pressure. The saving grace right now is Yunbi having a lot of time to farm in the side lane. He's actually got the most farm in the game, but it's constantly being traded back for these objectives and these fights, and Twisted Fate doesn't really get weaker from this point on. His damage continues to go up, and Niles going to be the target.
Yeah, and it might be adding some more chapters to that Magi that has been picked up by Bradley as well. Getting an easy kill on Niles. 5th death of the game, tying Rosethorn, and turret soon to fall too.
And look at how many members of Golden Guardians are coming here to respond to this. This turret was already gone. There was no way to defend it. And instead, they're going to be in a spot where they're kind of getting jerked around the map as Wildcard are just super ready to goon squad anybody. They aren't controlling the Baron. They aren't necessarily controlling a ton of vision on the top side of the map because they know there's no credible threat coming in from Golden Guardians. It would take Golden Guardians forever to do this objective, even if all 4 of their members were instantly on it as soon as they revealed themselves bottom lane. So Wildcard are going to continue creating pressure across the map, and it doesn't look like Golden Guardians really has a way to stop them until they start getting artificial gold form.
And even that is looking like it's a pipe dream at this point, because you can see Arrow with 2 items. We already talked about Bradley having technically 3 with that Magi. A lot of the members on Wildcard, the proper people that we wanted to see at the very beginning. We talked about Arrow getting this Aphelios being the true damage source. Well, he's been doing pretty decent for himself in this lane. 3-0 and 5 on that Aphelios. Even if he's being out-farmed by Prismal, really, it doesn't mean a damn here if you have an Aphelios getting into the late game.
I also want to point out something that I know Cage was very excited to talk about. Even though a lot of people are praising Bradley as one of the best mid laners improving grounds and potentially in Academy as well, and a lot of people are saying he might even be LCS ready, he actually has worse stats across the board than Yunbi in terms of things like KDA, CS per minute, and a lot of things that we typically...
You could fool me with this game.
Yeah, typically you associate with good mid laners, but this is the kind of thing that happens. When Wildcard are ahead, it becomes very difficult to play against them.
Nice grand entrance away from Nubi to escape the gold card. That rapid fire cannon could have been bad, but Rosethorn is now going to be the target instead. No Fillet to be able to drag him back in, but it's just Wildcard exerting their pressure onto GGA around this Baron. They might not need to start it up just yet, but they're slowly corralling in GGA into their base.
Feels very oppressive. This is what Wildcard often does once they have these leads. You see them moving around the map. They control all 3 waves so well, and big shout out to whoever is shot calling for them. Bradley able to create so much pressure on this Twisted Fate by playing with his range against these melee champions, and look at how low this turret is, and look how many members of Wildcard are here to make sure that it falls.
Should fall relatively soon. It was taken pretty low by that secondary charge out of Shelly earlier on, and now Niles. You could fool me that he is a tank, because, man, he took a lot of damage just from Arrow walking up there.
Going to be picking this up, taking a couple of turret shots, but it's okay. As long as there's no threat onto you, you're A-okay. Brandini also pushing in the mid lane. Again, look at the number of minions that Wildcard are forcing Golden Guardians to give up just by being more proactive on the map. Now, they don't actually realize how many people are backing from Wildcard. Golden Guardians might have been willing to take this fight otherwise, but they just don't see people on the side of the map.
And how are you supposed to when you don't even control your own jungle at this point? You only have one turret outside your base that stands, and that is mid lane. Normally, that is the one that helps you be able to retain control of your jungle, but not when everyone's been forced back into the base. They have to slowly all group together just to get rid of the vision control that has been laid down by Wildcard at this moment.
They notice a couple people backing away, but hey, they're doing it in a staggered fashion on the side of Wildcard. They're making sure that there will always be enough people on the map to try and contest this Baron, should Golden Guardians try to do it. They also have the teleport on the opposite side of the map with Brandini at this point in the game. And again, there are ways for Golden Guardians to eventually bring this back. If this game continues to go on, we see Niles get another couple of levels where he will have the opportunity to build more and more of these extra items for his team. It's going to be great. The problem is Wildcard aren't going to let them do that. Now that the Dragon is on the table, they are choking out the vision. It is so difficult for Golden Guardians to come here.
Josh, that actually brings up a good question. What can GGA do in order to get control back from Wildcard? Where can they possibly posture, and what can they possibly do to make sure they catch Wildcard off guard?
Well, that's a good start. But the big thing right now is I feel like you need to create sideline pressure. We haven't seen Yunbi actually split push against Bradley this entire time. They're stuck split pushing against Brandini's set. And unfortunately for Irelia, while that does become good later and later the game goes, it's not good right now simply because of the gold disparity between everybody on the map. And Wildcard are able to manufacture so many positive laning situations, and watch, Brandini's going to come down here.
What a flash in from Yunbi. Here's the call. The Forge God Daxon is going to be the target. Yeah, he's still up and alive, though. On the other side, here's Brandini wanting to be able to jump right into the middle of everyone on GGA. The kill onto Rosalind, the flash away, just to make sure they can get onto Newbie. Nice gold card on top of him. God, like Bradley, they can easily turn back onto whatever objective they want. It looks like it's going to be the Baron.
Okay, yeah, they can pick up anything they want. It's dealer's choice at this point. It looks like they're going to be prioritizing the Baron because they actually want to end the game. Even if they pick up this Ocean Dragon, they wouldn't be able to get the Ocean Soul until about 35 minutes. And Golden Guardian's going to be at least getting something on the map, right? They only picked up one turret so far. They are going to be picking up this Dragon as well. And it stops Wildcard's ability to get the Ocean Soul realistically. But again, that doesn't really matter when you're this far ahead, an 11,000 gold lead, and it looks like Golden Guardians might not even get out alive.
Oh, let's see. They're able to at least get the objective. Yunbi, he's stunned up. He's got damage onto Bradley, but a nice gold card with the Sheen proc eviscerates poor Yunbi. Niles, he is running as fast as his little Orn legs can take him. Nice Bellows Breath, but it's going to be the root from the Everfrost. Dashing away, nice Scatter of the Weak from Prismal, but Newbie has to stick on top of Niles just to survive. Brandini was nearly taken down by Prismal that entire time. But with 5 members still strong out of Wildcard, they can start pressuring the base.
Twisted Fate doing 2/3 of Prismal's HP with 1 auto attack and 1 Q, and now with Yumbi already dead,
stacks.
they're able to push in.
24 stacks? 24 stacks on that Magi. That is absurd for Twisted Fate. 8-0 and 8. Bradley really trying to prove everyone that he is truly the best, that he deserves to be in Academy and LCS.
8-0-8, 24 stacks. There's not a whole lot more that you could ask for this guy. Dodging the Orn ultimate. I guess that's a little something else that you can't get at the same time. Arrow might be the one to try and engage on.
this actually could be bad for the side of Wildcard. Gunby does have a TP available. It's going to be Destiny Gate opened up wide. Daption's going to be the target yet again, and with the TP behind, that was a lot of damage from the Moon of Light Vigil, but they're all still up. Here's going to be the Destiny Gate open. Wrong side, though, Bradley. You needed to go over the wall to be able to kill Newbie. Prismal's still alive, too, waiting it out. Goldcard is going to take down Legendary Bradley, but he falls to Rosethorn. He's shut down. 4v4. A lot of low health bars on both sides. Rosethorn would love to be able to re-engage onto Arrow, but he's got so many meatballs right in front of him. They can't get anywhere near. Brandini is making sure that he is not going to be able to kill. But that knockup from Niles! What the hell was that? Now they can re-engage. They got the kill onto Arrow. They've got Daption out. They've reset from Yunbi. Only Brandini's alive. It's a triple kill in from Aurelia. They want to take down one more. Brandini, he's got a nice shield up and available, so the rest of GGA will fall back.
Oh my gosh, I know exactly how the comms were going this entire time from Wildcard. At some point, Winston says, I have no mana, I'm done. But someone else is like, no, we still win, we still win. Brandini is good to be sticking around, but man, huge fight coming in from Golden Gardens, but we can't underestimate the fact that they are still down 11,000 gold after that fight goes through. Notice how low Winston's mana actually goes during this fight. You'll notice that he continues to fight regardless, but again, this is all about finding split fights, finding opportunities to hit everyone at the same time, and that's something that Wildcard does incredibly well, is they find these concaves. It makes it very easy for them to spread out and unable to get hit by a lot of AoE during a lot of these extended fights. Unfortunately, they make one mistake. Again, notice Winston has no mana. He throws out his E, that's it. That's his last contribution to the rest of this fight, and we've just praised Wildcard for their ability to create these concaves where they can't get hit by a bunch of AoE, and all at once, 4 members are getting hit by Ornn's knockup. That gives a huge opportunity for all of the AoE to come through from Golden Guardians, and because of how far ahead Wildcard are, the fight is still close, but big win. Close fights are still what Golden Guardians are looking for.
Yes, but they need to replicate that at least 4 more times if they want to be able to overcome that massive gold deficit they still suffer from. The pick potential onto Winston. Nice fellow's breath, but he can flag and drag out. This time, Winston has mana. Bradley was on the other side too, just to make sure they can all escape.
Lots of damage coming through from Bradley as well. Notice that he doesn't have a stopwatch whatsoever. Every time he goes in for one of these gates, he needs to position perfectly afterwards. But now, Wildcard starting to choke out the vision on the top side because they know they can play for this Baron. They have the damage to do it. They have the map control to do it. Every single one of their waves is pushing towards Golden Gardens. They're checking off every box before they go for any of these fights, and we'll see if they can convert it.
See, and you've got my attention now on these items. Bradley is full build here. They're almost 30 minutes into the game, and he's gotten his last item in, I think, Lichbane.
Ouch.
So he is going to be doing a lot more damage as long as he can kite out. Like you said, that's going to be the big problem. Not opting for the Zonias for the added safety. Instead, wanting to be the burst the team needs.
He's their only magic damage source across the team, so he needs to make sure that he has this damage. He needs to trust Brandini, Winston, and Daption to create these front lines for him. And they've already got the bottom lane inhibitor exposed, but now they're just starting to move in. It doesn't even look like they are necessarily going to be forcing situations for the Baron because it's not up for another minute and a half. They just know they need to keep Golden Guardians corralled so that they can go for these fights.
Cross, that's a lot of damage immediately on to Rosethorn with Cataclysm and a Showstopper on the other side. 2 stopwatches used. Niles, call the Forge Guard only onto 1, but it's going to be able to get the shield and as well take out that GA. Looking for Brandini with Flash just to survive. Bradley getting a lot of damage with the help of the 3 cards stacked up. Winston taking a lot of damage too. Moonlight Vigil only tickling the members at the moment of GGA, but it's Wildcard in the base, knocking at death's door of GGA. They can topple these turrets easily, but they have to be careful. There's still a lot of damage from Prismal if he's able to re-engage this entire fight, dodging away from Daption. The TP from Brandini. Nice scout of the week to make sure that he can't get into the backline, but the turrets are falling. They've got the flash away from Bradley, who's barely alive. Finally, the last Nexus turret is gone, but Brandini's in the middle of 4 members on GGA. Huge shield too to take down Yunbi. There goes Niles. There goes the team of GGA, but Newbie and Prismal right at the base, right at their own steps. Bradley's on the other side, but Prismal's still alive. Gold card away. Dragged back in with the death sentence, but they can't get the kills just yet. And finally, the Nexus falls. Wildcard will take game 1.
I feel like every single time I watch Wildcard, it's absolutely insane the number of fights they go for, but they just keep winning them every single time, Alex. It doesn't ever feel like they're giving things up, and every time we go for this big fight, Wildcard are going to be the ones coming out ahead. They won every single time except for the one time they all grouped up, and Wildcard firmly in control of this game from start to finish.
That they were. It was a great showing from Wildcard Red, proving to everyone why they are the #1 amateur team at the moment. But at this moment, we're going to toss it to break. We'll be back with our analyst desk to break down this first game in this best of 5. Don't go anywhere.